What's good, y'all? Welcome to my review for this week's episode of Uzumaki, man. Yeah, this review is coming out way later than the episode ones did, but you guys already know I got Bleach and Hero Walk on Saturdays, man. Reviews get delayed. Y'all know how it is. But thankfully, next week will be the final week of this, so once we get to episode... No, that will be... No, next week's episode 3, so next week will be episode 4. So the final episode, we'll be back to a somewhat normal schedule again, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, bear with me for the time being. Anyway, man, this episode was once again fantastic, man. I love this episode of Uzumaki. Now, let's quickly address the elephant in the room here, man. The animation in this episode, man. Now, you guys know how jaw-droppingly gorgeous the first episode looked. I mentioned that in my review from the beginning to the end of the video constantly. I sounded like a broken record, how much I was gushing about the animation in the first episode. The second episode, man, there was definitely a downgrade. Some were posting scenes that were like, we waited 5 years for this. You know, are there bad cuts this episode? Oh yeah. There were definitely some really wonky cuts, man. It looks like there was a little bit more CGI used for like characters when they were like moving around in like wider shots. I don't know for specifically if they did that, if those shots were CG. They just kind of looked like they were CG, but I could be wrong. That was all 2D animation. But it seems they did rely a little bit more on 3D animation. Episode 3 for the next episode preview looks to be closer to the quality that we saw in the first episode. Maybe this episode was just like really kicking the production's ass. So they were just like, fuck it, just outsource it, or they just gave up. I'm not sure. Maybe this is a low priority episode considering, you know, the first episodes were all the big, major, iconic moments of Uzumaki works. They like made that like the big, major priority episode for this 4-episode series. But we'll have to wait. But, you know, who knows, whatever the case may be, man. I don't know how the production was or whatnot, man. But, yeah, honestly, even with that, man, while there were definitely some bad cuts in this episode, man, the episode itself still looked really good. I would say it looked like a typical, you know, TV anime, you know, with its animation, man. It was fine. There were definitely some good-looking moments, and definitely when we got to the more, like, horrific moments with, like, the snail people, the dude getting run over by a car like a fucking dumbass, man. The key animation, the drawings all looked fantastic there, man. So, I wouldn't say the production has fallen off a cliff and, you know, Uzumaki is going to be shit. And like I said, episode 3 looks like it's going to be back, at least judging from the next episode preview, when it did air on Toonami. It did look like it was probably closer to the quality we saw in the first episode, rather compared to this one, man. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case, man, once the episode finally comes out next week. But, yeah, man. Also, guys, X-Men managed to catch the dub of the second episode right before I started recording, man. The dub, once again, was fantastic. Kyle Hebert and Kurt Thorne both made an appearance in their events, which was cool to see them. But, yeah, man, let's just jump right into the actual episode. So we start the episode out with the ugly bastard in training, you know, walking into class, once again, late. And this time he has a snail shell growing out of his back, which, of course, we see him transform into a snail later on the episode, man, which was freaky as hell. Once again, the animation there looked great, man. Like I said, the animation looked pretty good throughout the episode. Not as good as the first episode, but still looked pretty good. It seems like whenever it was with the lovers, man, the Romeo and Juliet shit, man, that seems to be like whenever they were on screen, that's when the animation tanked for some reason. I don't know why. But that's just how God intended it to be, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, so once he finally gets in there, man, the OP was once again significantly reduced. The spiral is a lot shorter. As you guys know, Toonami loves to chop the OPs after the initial debut. I don't know why. I think it might have something to do with so they get more airtime with ads, so that they have more time for ads. And that's why the OPs get shortened. I'm not entirely sure how that shit works or why it happens. Especially for Naruto Shippuden in particular, they just cut them out completely. Maybe it's a licensing with Naruto. I'm not entirely sure. Whatever the case may be, the OP was short. This episode was also a little bit longer than the previous episode. The previous episode, I think, was your standard like 24 minutes or whatnot. This one was almost 27 minutes long. As you guys may know, if you guys watched the show off Toonami like I do, you guys know Toonami's schedule was kind of weird, wonky today because they aired like this anime short of Rick and Morty after the episode of the Rick and Morty anime, and from there, like, you know, the whole timeline was kind of wonky, and everything else came out like 15 minutes later than it would usually come out, or when they usually start to air. So I don't know if that was done because of that, or maybe it was Uzumaki and they just built the rest of the block around that episode, or why this episode. I don't know if the rest of the episode are going to be like this, where they're all like slightly longer than a standard TV length for an anime episode, if this was just a one-time thing. But the episode was a little bit longer compared to the previous episode. Whatever the case may be, once we get back from the credits, we see the two lovers once again chilling in some abandoned house, or maybe this is their house. I forget where exactly they are. They're alone. This house is decrepit, broken, busted, man. There's holes everywhere, man. It is not livable by any stretch of the imagination. and they see these two snakes coiled around each other, you know. Which at first, the feet with the woman, I forget her name off the top of my head right now, she's like, oh no, they're fighting, they're just like our parents. And then Kazunori, I believe his name was, he says, oh no, they're actually mating, which I don't know if that's actually how snakes mate. They just like literally just coil around each other and just go to town or whatnot. But, you know, that's apparently what they were acting as they fall into some hole. We then get back with Kirie, where she's with one of her friends. They talk about how they can't find Azumi. And as we know, she was sucked out of existence into a black hole that she herself created. Apparently, she was actually even interrogated by the cops about this, man. And, you know, she probably lied. Couldn't say, like, yeah, she just sucked herself up in a black hole, you know. So, they're like, yeah. So they're walking through this graveyard. We find out that basically, due to the cremation causing the smoke spirals in the sky, they decided to just bury everybody instead of calling the cremation. And apparently it's even happening in other cities, only with citizens of this town. If you are a citizen or from this town, man, if you get cremated in another city, once again it calls as the smoke spiral. So they're just like, fuck it, we're just burying everyone just so we don't gotta see that creepy shit. Some they think it's due to like weather patterns and something wrong with the smoke, with the cremation smoke chimney thing. I don't know what's actually called. But yeah, and as they're walking forward, she talks about how creepy it is that now that there's actual dead bodies here. I'm like, woman, you're in a cemetery. What the fuck do you think was here? And she's like, it's creepy that we have to go through this in like during our trip. But I'm like, then take another ride if you're so creeped out by a cemetery, woman. The fuck? So as they continue on their walk back home, they're greeted by another student that surprises them by jumping out of a grave. Or behind a gravestone, excuse me. He didn't like jump out of a grave like a zombie. Although next week looks like we have got zombies. For the next episode, looks like we're getting zombies next week, so that should be interesting where that goes. But he jumps out there to scare them, man. And we find out his name is, well, he has a name, but everyone calls him Jack in the Box because he's a massive prankster. And this dude wants Kirie for himself because he's like, he wants to scare the shit out of everyone because he wants a hot. What the hell was his exact line, man? Because it's like, bruh, calm the fuck down, bro. Where he says, I want to score a pretty little thing like you as my girlfriend. I'm like, bro, chill. And of course, Kirie, because of course she's already dated someone, tells him to fuck off. Well, doesn't say the exact verbiage, man, but, you know, she tells her he's taken, man. And that she don't want none of his smoke. And he declares, like, yo, mark my words, you're gonna fall for me. And that's when Kirie walks in on Kazunori and, of course, his girlfriend. Like I said, it seems like whenever these two are on screen, that's when the animation, because I will also say, along with the beach cut, this cut also looked pretty wonky, man. Like, I feel like they probably used some CGI here for some of the character models in certain shots. I don't know for certain, but it kind of looked like they switched over to CGI in a couple areas. I don't know for certain, but that's how it looked like to me. And I think the reason why it looks so wonky is that the punches look like they're in slow motion, even though they're not, and like everything else is in like normal speed, so that makes it look even more wonky, the punches, man. But yeah, so they're fighting. They tell us like, yo, how dare you? I told you to fuck her. Stay away from her. Blah 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 blah. He explains that these two families hate each other. Like I said, this is kind of like low-key some Romeo and Juliet type shit. Due to the fact that they both live, that they're neighbors. They both grow up in basically the poorhouse. The neighbors in the poorhouse, and he thinks that the other family are angry and uses that as a shield to deflect from the reality that they're, you know, in poverty. So, and they just take their anger out on, you know, each other, on their families. He mentions how everyone's so coiled, that they're all so coiled and tied and twisted and turned that they turn into knots, man. You know, just leads to more violence when these two clash horns. And he tells her that he also plans on running away with her at the day after, by train the day after, until of course tells Kirie to not say anything, which she of course agrees. So then we head over back with Kirie and Shuichi. And she tells her, of course, what happened. Like, hey, you know, that these two are going to be, you know, running away by train, blah, blah, blah. And he says, yeah, the curse of the spiral is really strong in that area. And she asks him to go on. She mentions how, you know, that he could be wrong, but the curse of the spiral seems to be, like, really potent in that area, and that even more people are starting to get infected by the curse of the spiral. And he mentions how now people are, like, becoming very attention-starved, and that they'll do anything to get more and more attention. After that, we then head over back to when she's going to school. Her hair is now, like I said, her hair is starting to get longer. And I don't know if you would consider this an animation error, or if it was like this in the manga, because you guys know I haven't read the Uzumaki manga. But like, her hair is like long hair. But then like one of the other students come in and say like, hey, you know, what's going on with your hair? And then it's all coiled up into spirals, which it wasn't in the previous shot. Now, like I said, I don't know if you would consider this an animation error with, with continuity, or if this was like in a model where like she had like normal long hair one shot, and then the next panel she had the spirals. I don't know, but that's something I did notice when I was watching the episode, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in my reaction as well. So she's in class, man. The teacher's teaching, but then of course, as he's going on there, they're talking about DNA because of course he is. The hair is the student said that she'll like braid her hair for her because of the curls, and while she's in class, her hair like unbraids itself and it returns back to the spirals. And then we have the ugly bastard in training. He then becomes a snail person, a snail man. And it was pretty gruesome, man. If you guys remember my reaction to the first episode of Uzumaki, like they showed that in one of the commercials, the commercial packages, in like the commercial package, like right before they went back to air, like it was like when they said, "We'll be right back with Uzumaki." It was one of those two, man. I forget which one it was. And I was just like, what the hell? And yeah, man. And once again, man, like I said, animation was pretty bad in some areas, but like throughout most of the episode, the animation was really good. Like right here, man, when this dude like fully transforms into a snail and like his eyes pop out and they like really just looks like a snail, man. Perfect animation there. It looked fantastic, man. It was grotesque, it was gruesome, and just had me go like, ugh. Freaky shit, man. So yeah, like I said, the animation in this episode, man, was still overall really good, man. It had some bad spots, but overall still a pretty good animated episode, man, in all things considered. But anyway, that's when she then goes to the hair salon to get it cut, and she wants her hair short. But then once the barber, I guess hairstyles, I don't know what you would consider for women, goes to cut her hair retaliates, takes her down, and then just starts strangling her when she gets back home. And then eventually it stops, and then everyone starts getting hypnotized by the spirals in her hair. She goes to school, man, and one of the teachers like, "Hey, yo, the fuck's up with your hair?" And then one of the spirals comes to him and be like, "Become one with the spirals." And then him and a bunch of other people that are right next to him get hypnotized as well. The student that braided her hair says like, "Oh, I'll get more attention now. You wait. I'll attract even more attention than you." So then we're back with the kids, the bully characters. The bully characters, which you saw for the first episode, man, they are now calling him, the main guy is calling him Sluggo now because of what happened. And then we cut over to like the teacher showing the snail, like they put him in like a pen now, where they said like, "Hey," when his parents get there, he says like, "Hey, here's your son." Then he comes out of his shell, man. Fucking gruesome, man. Like Junji Ito, man. I don't know what drugs this dude is on to come up with this weird shit, man, but hey, we appreciate you all the more for, man, for your creepy ass body horror and shit, man. So then Kiryu goes in there and like just fires water at it from the water hose right next to it. I'm not entirely sure what purpose this serves. I don't know if snails need to be always moist or something. Especially since just hitting his shell lets the shell can absorb the water and put it into the slug. I'm not entirely sure how that works. I am not a snail biologist by any stretch of the imagination. So if y'all are in the comments, definitely leave it down below. I don't know why I was talking like that for that one section, man. But anyway, as the episode continues onward, man, once again her hair is getting even more and more out of control with the spirals. The Jack in the Box comes back in there and he says, and he offers Kitty a present. She tells him he's sorry that she can't accept it, but he's like, "Oh, come on, at least open it." And then this fucking dumbass, in an attempt to prove his love to her, says, "Look, I will stop this car with my love, with the power of my love." It's like that one dumbass kid that got in a car crash on Kick and got his friend damn near got him killed. You know, it reminds me of that, man. It was funny because this was also a car accident. So he literally stands in front of traffic, man, and then just gets run over by the car, man. The sound design here was fantastic. Once he gets run over, man, and you can hear like the bones and shit crunching under the wheels, man. Fantastic, man. Fantastic. So we then get to see the remnants of it, man. Once again, man, like the first episode, man, key animation, the drawings themselves are spectacular, man. Looks absolutely amazing. Like I said, like there were some bad cuts, man, but this was still a solid episode in terms of animation, man. And then we find out what was in there was a Jack in the Box, and then it goes from like a normal like kitty cutesy like normal Jack to like some creepy some creepy horror clown thing, man. They look pretty freaky, man. Once again, key animation for that looked phenomenal, man. Afterwards, we then find out that one of the other students has also become a snail man, and then we see probably the most horrifying thing I've seen in an anime in my tenure so far. We watch these two mate, Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we watched them mate. And if you guys saw my reaction, y'all know I was creeped the fuck out by this man. Now, interesting thing about this one, this is something about Snail's biology that I did not know. Because while the episode's going on, I mentioned like, how is this even possible? Are they mating? And someone in my prize. Now I don't know this dude. He has like the most generic of generic profile pictures, so this could just be, nothing. But he mentioned that yes, and that apparently that snails chew off their own dicks. Like after they that's how they he says that's how they mate. They're heteromorphs. They mate once and then they bite off and then they bite their dicks. They're like, all right, I made it once. I don't need to do it again. Which is kind of freaky when you think about that, man. But yeah, fun fact I guess about snails. Anyway, guys, so after they're done mating, we then find out that the other girl that wanted to get more attention has now also got her hair in. Her hair is standing up. She's got a bunch of spirals as well. And then they started like to fight. They start to fight like their hair starts battling each other, man. Honestly, it was definitely kind of weird, man. But I was like, all right, I'm down. All right, I can get jiggy with this. So they're duking it out. She eventually grabs like has her hair start to choke. Yukide, but eventually Shinichi comes in there, manages to cut off the hair that's choking her so she can finally breathe again. He then tries to cut off Yukire's hair. Kirie, excuse me, I know I was saying Yukie. Kirie's hair, and tries to like cut her hair off as well, but the hair attacks her and just like and then just like swallows him up basically. And then she then claims victory, like, I am now the center of attention. And she walks away, man. She takes her victory lap, but then she's like, I need more attention. It was like that episode's probably like, water. That's what it reminded me of. And she eventually like coils her hair around like this power line. But eventually Shinichi manages to break out of there and finally starts to cut off Kirie's hair, finally freeing her of all that hair. Now she has short hair now. So as they're walking around, they meet up with their teacher, who is stomping out on the snail eggs that those two had laid after they made it. And they're of course shocked. Like, well, how could they mate it? They're both dudes. And they mentioned, like I mentioned before, they're heteromorphs, so they don't really have a gender, or I guess they can switch it. I'm not exactly sure. But either way, they can mate. That's all that matters. And then he just starts stomping out on these eggs, man. Honestly, understand, man. If you had an army of snail people just like running amok, they could easily overtake the city, man. It was honestly smart of him to just like, and they say it would cause pandemonium. It would. So he did the right thing, even though she was like, no, don't kill their eggs. I'm like, no, I'm with the teacher, man. This is honestly kind of the smart thing to do. So he's like stomping them out, man. Like, I don't know if anyone else was like this, man, or if this was just me, but when I was watching this part of the episode, the only thing that was on my mind when I thought of this scene was just like that old Dave Chappelle shit, where just like, fuck your couch, nigga. Buy another one, you rich motherfucker. Fuck your couch, nigga. Fuck your couch. I don't know, man. I was just playing in my head. I just thought about that while I was watching this part of the episode, man. I don't know if anyone else was like that, but that was with me. Anyway, we meet up with their two lovebirds. Their parents have already discovered that they're planning on running away, and that they are chasing after him. Shinichi said that we should cross through the beach, and then that's when they're met with their parents. And yeah, we get to the other really bad cut of the episode. That was what I saw on Twitter. And yeah, it's a bad cut, man. I don't know what the fuck happened here, man. This cut was not good. Not good at all. Either way, guys, so eventually once they reach up there, the dude like throws his punter. Once again, it looks very choppy. It does not look good at all. They eventually start coiling they're coiling against themselves before they finally like reach together and coil around together like the snakes we saw at the start of the episode, man. And they said, "You could never break us apart. Our love, you will never break our love. We will be together forever." And they just slither off into the sea. I thought they were gonna kiss here right before they slithered away, but they literally just like look at each other and they just start slithering. I was always expecting them to kiss, but there was no kiss. Anyway, afterwards there we see some panic. We see some wide shots of the lighthouse that's by the town doing its thing. Before we're back over to Kirie, as we now see that civilians are now basically walking in circles now that the straight can't work. They can't walk in a straight line, so they're literally walking in circles like a spiral. Yeah. So anyway, she gets to school once again. Other people are once again only be able to go in circles. And then when she gets to class, we find out that their sensei has also turned into a snail man as well. Although the difference with this dude still has his arms, weirdly enough, so he's still able to like use his arms to like crawl around. But like, yeah, the dude's a snail now. Creepy as hell once again. The texturing on him look really good, man. But yeah, creepy as hell, man. Creepy as hell. So eventually, it looks like she's on her way home. She meets up with her brother, and he's like, "You gotta see sis, you gotta see this." And then they reach the beach where they find out that there's a ship that has wrecked ashore. And basically, they find out that the crewmen are missing. They found one, but the other ones are missing, and apparently, they were aimlessly walking in circles before they went overboard. The kids that were there end up starting to explore the lighthouse, with Kirie following suit after them, trying to chase after them. She meets up with two of the kids, man. And by the way, I also say this real quick now. The backgrounds in this episode, like the background right here, right before she enters the Watchtower, man, fantastic. I really love the backgrounds here for this part of the episode, man. And they looked absolutely amazing. So once she finally starts going up the stairs, she meets up with two of the kids. And then they find a bunch of burned corpses right in front of them. They look great as well. The texture on them look great, man. Like I said, this was a great episode, man. In terms of animation, it was still a solid, pretty good episode, man. Had a couple bad cuts, but it was still overall a solid episode in terms of animation. But like I said, man, it looks like with the next episode for episode 3, that one seems to be returning back to like more to the quality of what episode 1 was. At least for the next episode preview, we'll obviously know when the episode actually drops. But anyway, she tells the two kids to go back down, and then she'll grab the other two that are there. She reaches the top of the tower, and she finds the other two. They can't move because they're staring at the spiral. And I really like the look of this watchtower, man. As we see the fluorescent light, or the fluorescent bulb control game, has like melted and deteriorated so much that it's now in the shape of a spiral, man. It looked really fucking cool, man. It looked really fucking cool. So Kirie is trying to wonder what the hell could lead to this thing. How did those bodies get so burnt? And then she realized that most likely the light of this watchtower is so bright that's enough to melt glass and of course burn bodies to a crisp. And they also mentioned they also sent some experts into the watchtower, but they never came back. Also, we can tell what happened to their corpses. So once you realize that she tells all of them to rush downstairs, they all start sprinting down there, man. Of course, trying to outrun, trying to beat the sunset, which is when the thing turns on. And then, of course, but eventually this thing starts to turn on. Of course, one of the kids trips because of fucking course someone tripped, man. It's a horror thing. Someone always got to trip, man. She tries to rescue him, but then the smoke from the light starts to envelop, or I guess the heat rather would be more apt comparison. The heat starts to reach them, man, and we end the episode with them falling down the stairs and that's where the episode ends, man. Fantastic episode once again, man. I had a blast watch this one. I am curious if they're going to keep these like slightly extended episodes for the rest of the series, or if this is just a one-time thing with this episode. And also, we also have a post-credit scene as well, where we once again like go back to where we're like at the graveyard again. We see the lighthouse kind of like panning through the graveyard with its light as we see basically a zombie rise up from the dead, man. And once again, texturing, key animation, everything here looked fantastic. So, yeah, like I said, next week seems like we're going to have zombies or some variation of zombies next week. I mean, the design of them looks cool. I like what we saw in the next episode pre-mint, and I like this zombies design that we see in the post-credit scene, man. So I'm definitely intrigued by zombies in Uzumaki. I'm definitely intrigued to see where Junji Ito takes us and what his take on zombies is going to be, man. I'm intrigued, man. But yeah, man, I've been loving the show, man. I'm looking forward to the last 2 episodes. And yeah, man, overall, I give this episode a 9 out of 10, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. You like if you did, subscribe if you're new. Follow me social if you feel like it. Links subscribe below. And as always, come back for more. See you guys next time.